friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Reuben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
Hey, Dad. What's going on, Brian?
Oh, wow. I have quite the gay dad report this week.
Oh, dish.
Yesterday was quite the roller coaster. At our kids' school, the parents kind of have an open invitation to come into a classroom and read a book. To reach out to the teacher and volunteer to come in and read a book. And so I reached out to both my kids' teachers and offered to come in and read something Pride related.
Prince and Knight.
It was not Prince and Knight. Yesterday I went in. I may read that one for the kindergartner next week, but yesterday I went into my third grader's classroom and I read them a book called Pride, The Story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag.
Cute.
Yeah. I said to my daughter first, before I reached out to the teacher, I said, I suppose in third grade you don't still do read alouds. And she said, no, we do. And we either the other class comes in our room or we go to there, but we get the whole third grade together. And, sometimes the teachers will read us a book. So I reached out because I was feeling guilty. As you know, I'm the co-president of the Parents Association at their school. And I was feeling guilty. It's been such a the end of the school year is very busy at school. And I just have been feeling lax about what we've been doing as a Parents Association around Pride. So I at least thought I could do this much. So I reached out and they were very excited for me to come in. And so I went in, and before I went into the book, I, talked to the kids. I explained why we use the word pride, that for so many years, we're told that this is something to be ashamed of. And so this is us, expressing that we are, prideful. And then I talked a little bit about the history. And these are all kids who were born in 2015, which is the same year that marriage equality became federal. So I kind of pointed that out to them, that it's a fairly new right, and that they were all born that year. And then I went into reading the book, and everybody appeared to love it. And I left there feeling really great, on a real high, and, just kind of amazed, because back when I was in the third grade, there certainly were no mentions of gay people whatsoever, let alone, to this degree.
In third grade in a public elementary school?
Yeah. So I left there feeling really high. And then, and my daughter has like a really beautiful community of friends at her school. And even outside of those who are her closest friends, whose parents we are friends with, everybody in her classroom, even the ones we're not all that familiar with, they all feel very close. And this teacher that they've had this year has really done an amazing job of cultivating this like family amongst them. And a few hours after my read aloud, my phone, I start getting a FaceTime on my phone from somebody who works in the office at the school. And I pick it up, and my daughter's on the other end. And I said, hi, what's going on? And she proceeds to tell me that one of the boys who sits at her table, they're all organized in like these round tables of 5 kids. And one of the boys at her table said that he doesn't like gay people and that he can't be her friend anymore.
Wow.
Which, yeah. Now, this is a boy who, like, he is not native to the U.S. I think this is his first year at the school, and at the beginning of the school year, didn't speak English, and now he does. I'm
glad his English is good enough to express that.
Yes.
Great. What competency.
Yeah. And he, I know he comes, there's some tragedy in his family, and I think he comes from a very religious family. But, all that aside, like, all as a parent one wants to do is like protect their kids from hurt. And when it feels like it is on you because what they are being, dragged for is your identity, that was, rough. And I said to her, listen, we are going to encounter people like this who feel this way about us, all our lives, and we don't have to be friends with those people, but you are surrounded there by people who love you and who love us as a family and know us as a family. And it's true. I mean, when I walked into that classroom, the amount of kids shouting my name and so excited that I was there, like, we really do have this amazing community. But, I really kind of put on a brave face for her, but it
stung.
Yeah.
It's layered, right? Because it's about you, and also exactly what you just said. Like, it's about you protecting your child for something you, quote unquote, did.
Right. And I knew obviously that this would rear its head at some point in her life, but took me by surprise. And but the school is amazing, and apparently what happened is this boy told this to one of the other boys that they share a table with, and then that boy said, "You can't say that," and then and mentioned my daughter's name, you can't say that, she's right here. And I guess she must have heard and said, "What?" And so then this boy expressed it directly to her, and she went to the teacher who she's very close with. And the teacher apparently, according to reports, not just from my daughter, but other kids in the class, they've never seen her angrier. And so the boy was sent to the principal's office, and my daughter also went down to the office because there's a social worker there who she loves. There are people in the office who love her. My daughter has a way of making herself known and loved by all the grown-ups. So she was immediately supported by her teacher, by the principal, by the social worker, by other people who work there. And so I felt good about that at least she was in as safe a place as possible. And I spoke to the principal, and this principal told me that this boy was in tears. He did not mean to hurt my daughter, and he was just very confused. He didn't know that this was even something that could be that one of his friends could have two dads. And I'm sure, and apparently he also mentioned religion to the principal, and I'm sure that in his home life he's probably heard derogatory comments about gay people, and it never occurred to him that they could be in his own life, that they could be, parents of his friends. But he was mortified, and he insisted he wanted to apologize to my daughter. And apparently the social worker, the principal, they all wanted him to wait because they felt my daughter needed some time. But I guess he got his way and he apologized. And what my daughter reported last night after school, and then I heard again from the social worker this morning, is that my daughter said to him, I accept your apology. It's not okay, but I accept your apology. And the social worker was saying to me this morning, she just thought my daughter was so grown up about it, and couldn't believe that she had the wherewithal to say I'm not going to say it's okay. Because typically, when my daughters get into an argument and my older one's feelings are hurt, the younger one will apologize, and the first thing the older one says is, "It's okay." But she was not going to say that. She was not going to let him feel that was okay. And she apparently also said to the social worker, my 8-year-old, she said, I didn't think I'd have to deal with this so soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you realize in the cinematic version of this story, your daughter goes on to date this boy.
Right.
And then you go meet the bear. And then you meet the bear.
Right. Yeah. So that was one part of the roller coaster, but then the day ended beautifully because the day ended with the annual talent show at the school. And the kids had done their performances for the students a couple weeks ago, but last night was when families were invited in to see the talent show. And my younger one performed a dance and lip sync to Padam Padam. The Kids Bop version, which has revised lyrics I know you want to say hello and get to know me more, and your smile has a glow instead of take off all my clothes.
I love Kids Bop editing. It's
amazing.
I'm I wonder if there's a Kids Bop version of My Neck, My Back, or whatever that song is.
It's
my
underneath
jacket
the surface.
and my hat.
That's hysterical. It's underneath the surface instead of underneath that T-shirt. Anyway, and she took the entire audience by complete shock when her dance included death drops. or at least like instantaneous like splits, like they were nothing. But like, I showed the video to my mom. I may post the video to our Dads and Daddies Instagram stories because I want to figure out a way for Kylie to see it herself. But my mom saw the video and asked how she learned to do it, and I had to confess it was from watching the lip sync Lollapalooza SmackDown episode of the last season of Drag Race with me. So
if you get Kylie Minogue to retweet us, we're done. We don't have to do any more marketing. It's going to be incredible.
Anyway, very proud gay dad of both my girls.
You should be. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm sorry your daughter experienced that. It's a component, I think, of gay parenting that I didn't even consider.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like for the child of gay parents to experience homophobia? I also, I know your daughter, and I think that she is going to extend an olive branch to this young man. They sit at the same table.
Well, the funny thing is the teacher immediately switched where they sit. And there's only a few days left in the school year this year. And my daughter was like not thrilled with the move. Like, I think she would have rather just like stayed at the table. But I think the teacher thought she was doing the right thing by separating them.
Trial by fire. You know what I mean? And I just, I actually really feel for the kid.
I do too. I actually do too.
He didn't know.
No, it was a real learning moment, I think, for this kid. And God knows what he reported back at home. And I know the principal said to me, she's pretty sure she'll hear from that family. But it's a funny thing too. I didn't mention this, but like when I offered to do this read aloud in the classroom, the teacher reached out and said, can I just get the title of the book you're reading so I can let the parents know? Which is, I love this teacher. And I know that she's only trying to protect her own skin in the schools. But any other time I volunteered to come in and read just on a random, Tuesday, I've never been asked that question. But because I know it was because this was Pride related that she posted it on our like shared app where the school communicates with us, and just said, she wrote a lovely post. She's like, in a few days, one of our parents is coming in and reading this book, just so that she can't like then be told that any of the parents were blindsided by it. But it was just funny that like they clearly felt the need to warn the community that a gay was coming in to convert their children.
Please welcome Brian Ruben Sowers to read dramatic excerpts from Larry Kramer's Faggot.
Can you imagine?
I actually can.
Yeah. No, but I'm very proud of both my girls. The way my older one handled the situation with such maturity was amazing. And the bravery of my younger one to get on that stage and dance her little butt off to Padam Padam in front of all of these strangers and give us death drops. I'm super proud of both of them. And yeah, proud of my gay parent.
Your younger one is a show pony for sure.
Yes.
I don't think she was nervous in the least.
She was not.
I actually also performed in my elementary school's talent show.
Yeah.
In the 5th grade, I did a gymnastics routine to the Grease medley.
Oh my God.
So fucking gay, right?
Is this on video?
Well, I've actually converted it to a YouTube link. I'll send it to you.
Oh
Maybe we can post that too.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is about rewatching it. So there was a ribbon portion of the performance.
Oh my God.
And I remember even in 5th grade rewatching the performance and being upset that my ribbon was out of sync with the other 2 girls I was dancing with. That's how gay I was at 10 years old.
That's amazing. I could spend this whole hour talking about the other acts in the talent show last night, especially like the groups and like the way that the kids were like judging each other. Like they'd all rehearsed together clearly for weeks. And then like if one would get out of sync, it was amazing and hysterical. And I loved every second.
Like the Queen Bee is like Tara.
Yes, exactly that. I think Toby even called one of them this morning the Queen Bee. The one thing I will say to you gay parents out there in terms of this situation, if you have not yet faced a moment where your kids have interacted with homophobia, that I think one of the things that helped the situation, and this is what the social worker said to us this morning too, is that like we talk about it at home. Like we've said before, like there are people out there who don't get it, don't like it, like, And so the fact that she knew that, I kind of love that her takeaway was, I didn't think I'd have to deal with this so soon, rather than like total shock that anybody could have these feelings.
That's good parenting on your part. Like, these things are going to come up.
Yeah. I mean, we try as a philosophy in our house to like not speak down to our kids, and like just we've never done that. And so, so, I mean, I think that's the best thing that we unknowingly kind of did going into this to prepare her, was just like, let them know that like, yes, we're a little bit of a different family, and there are people who aren't okay with it, but, yeah, that's all I have to say on that, I think.
Way to prep them for the big stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job. I would be proud if I were you. I'm proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you. And what a month to be proud.
What a month to be proud.
And how are you? How's your week?
Excuse me. My week was excellent, largely because, and I've expressed this to you as my pod co-host.
Yeah.
I want podcast fame to make fucking easier for me. Yes, Brian, I'm interested in getting to know you or whatever, but let's just talk about the actual motive. I met this really sexy couple at Brooklyn Pride who are visiting from DC.
Yes.
And we had a lovely little daytime affair this week.
I love that.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
At their request,
yeah,
they wore the Dads and Daddies merch while we fucked. It was awesome.
That's special.
I want to plug, this is free promotion for you, dayuse.com. So there is now a website where you can book hotels, like legit hotels. This was a Holiday Inn,
right,
for a couple hours, right? Because these companies are trying to make money wherever they can.
Sure.
So if the room is unattended or unvisited, they can release it for a block of hours.
Right.
So I actually booked a room at a Holiday Inn for a couple hours for us to meet close to my job.
Okay.
Like I just took a long lunch.
Yeah.
And the thing I'm thinking about is, Dayuse, like, what is your website for if not this?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. They know what these rooms are being used for, right?
I mean, the website shows a guy like working at the desk or a woman like enjoying room service.
I mean, the only thing I can think is like if you are like doing a flip trip, like you take a red eye in and then you're taking like a flight back out and you just need a place to like get ready between meetings. But like for the most part, it's being used for what you used it for. Yeah.
So dayuse.com, if you're listening, please become the official sponsor of Dads and Daddies. This also reminds me of like it's part of what I love about hooking up is just like learning things about how other people navigate it.
Yeah.
And this didn't happen in this particular incident, but I hooked up with a guy in the Aloft financial district.
Okay.
And I applauded him. I was like, thank you so much for choosing a hotel that didn't have a key card. So I didn't have to like wait at the elevator for someone to like let me up to his room. He goes, oh yeah, there's like a whole website for slutty bottoms that want to host in a hotel that'll tell you what hotels don't have key cards. Amazing. Which means,
do we know what the URL is?
I forget. I'll text him. But it means they don't have to come out of their room and you don't have to wait for someone else to come through. You can just like go up pretty stealth.
Oh my God. The internet is an amazing place. Wait, so tell me the logistics of this Dayuse, because I have heard. So Toby used it once upon a time, but apparently like pre-pandemic. I think it's like not a new site. Like it's been around.
Oh, yeah, it could just be new to me.
And he said that you had to pay cash.
Nope, I used a credit card.
Okay, so maybe they've evolved.
It was very easy. Like it was extremely easy. You get on the website.
Yeah.
It's map-based, so you can search an area and look on the map, which made it really easy for me to find somewhere very close to my job, so I could like go and get back quickly.
Right.
And they quote you the price on the website. You don't pay anything online. You just book the room. You show up at the hotel. You pay a little. Well, the payment is really interesting because you also have to pay taxes.
Okay.
So it's like above the sticker price and a deposit.
Right.
But I got the deposit back the next day.
Okay.
So you book online, you pay with a credit card, they give you the keys. I also got 2 complimentary bottles of water.
Very nice.
Thank you, Holiday Inn Wall Street. And then the room is just yours to use.
And you check in just as if you're any guest. You just walk up, give your name, and they have you in the...
Yeah, my driver's license, my credit card, she was very sweet. I just said, I booked this on day use. She gave me the keys and just said, oh yeah, when you check out, just drop the keys in this box. You don't have to stop up at the desk.
Amazing.
And then 4 minutes later, 2 guys came.
I thought you were saying that 4 minutes later you were done.
She knows. She knows.
Yeah. Listen, I used to live in a doorman building and I hosted all the time. And I just knew that they knew what was happening.
Oh, they can't not know.
And those are people who are in my life every single day. At least your Holiday Inn woman, you're not going to see her again until the next time you book on day use.
To be a doorman in New York City.
Oh my God.
That is a very appealing job if you love secrets, which I do.
Yes.
I trade in secrets.
Yes.
So that was the highlight of my week, I would say. It was very busy with work. Bruce and I are doing great. People are in a festive mood because it's Pride and the weather is kind of amazing right now here in New York City. But overall, I'm just cruising into the weekend. I feel good.
Amazing. I love it. Let's take a break. And we have, I'm very excited about our topic.
Me too. See you in a minute.
So we received an email to our dadsanddaddies@gmail.com address, and it was intended as a Go Ask Your Dad question. But Judson felt, and I agreed with him, that there's much more to speak about here than just a few minutes of answering and providing some advice. So we decided to use this as the basis for this week's topic. So I'm gonna read this to you. These are excerpts from the email. It says, so at almost 30 years old, I have my first boyfriend ever. I asked him just last week. I was born and raised in Alabama, just moved to the city last February after separating and getting a divorce from my wife. We were together 10 years, married for 2. She knew I was bisexual at the least, and we both thought love could be enough, and Bible Belt parents and grandparents could be happy too. But I wasn't happy at the end of the day. Ultimately, at the end of our marriage, we knew we could be the best versions of ourselves apart than together. So, as I reach my quote-unquote gay death, as he said, he's almost 30 years old, as some gay men see it, I see it as I am just starting to live my truest and most authentic life. So he said, my Go Ask Your Dad question is, how do you navigate quote-unquote gay death in a community who coined the term to begin with?
I mean, obviously, a 50-year-old and a 41-year-old who are thriving are going to have some opinions on this. I do want to add, this guy is so cute and so sweet. We didn't mention your name to protect your identity, but at the beginning of this email, he describes that at the Pride Festival, he landed on the prize wheel, Kiss a Daddy, which was one of the prizes. Loved it. And he goes, okay. And he runs over to his boyfriend and kisses his boyfriend. I was with my husband at the Pride wheel when this happened, and we just thought it was the sweetest thing in the world. So when he sent this email in and described himself as that guy, I remembered him distinctly.
Yeah.
So, listener, thank you so much for this question. Thank you so much for being so candid in your response to us. I hope what we have to discuss over the next 10 or 15 minutes is helpful as you navigate nearing 30. So, Brian, you're 50.
I am 50.
And your motivation for this podcast is that having reached this age, you feel like you have wisdom to share.
Yes.
As you were approaching 30, how did you feel about it?
So I don't even know that I was aware of the concept of gay death back then. I think I learned it later. I've personally always been excited to age and to approach the milestone birthdays because I've always had a bit of a young look. I've always been a little slight. And I've always been, I felt like, treated younger than I am, and, which feels like disrespect. And so I've always loved to be able to claim, fuck you, I'm 30, fuck you, I'm 40, fuck you, I'm 50, And for me, I mean, I didn't meet my husband until I was 38. And so, for me, the best parts of my life have happened in my 30s and 40s and now 50s. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot ever since we got this question. I think it's a very just immature concept, and one obviously that is of most concern to guys in their 20s. But like, life does not end, and not only does it not end, I agree with this writer that like it kind of begins for me, I think, in the gay world. I've always also said that like a gay man's maturity kind of depends on like how much time out of the closet, not their actual age, and so I mean, for me, in my experience, life kind of began at 30, and I had some great times in my very late 20s. I would say like 25 is when I started to even figure out how to become a sexual being. I mean, I had been out of the closet, amongst my friends since 17, 18, but it wasn't until I was like 25 that I started to like figure out how to navigate the bar scene and how to dress in a, more sexy way. And I mean, I think my 30s were my sluttiest times.
Until now.
What's that?
Until now. You have the whole whole of your 50s.
That's funny. Yeah, and I've never felt like more attractive than I do now. I've never been this confident in my looks until now. So for me it's a complete myth, this gay death at 30.
I also I didn't actually know what he was talking about. And then I looked it up and thought, oh yeah, there's that Queer as Folk episode from the American version in the 90s.
Oh, right.
Where they have like a funeral for Brian. And of course, I was watching this at like 16, 17, 18, so 30 felt...
Oh, they have a funeral for his gay death?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So it felt very far in the future.
Right.
But I, like you, have always looked forward to aging. I'm an old soul.
Right.
I wish I knew more about the origin of this term, because I would like to understand how a group of people so young and inexperienced would have so much sway on the rest of us.
Right.
And I have a hypothesis. I think that this is a very unfortunate carryover from heterosexual culture. I think this concept is extremely, extremely straight.
Right.
Because straight people, whether they admit it or not, are cultured to operate their lives on a very specific timeline. And it looks like adolescence, teenagehood, school, job, partner, babies.
Right.
Like, it's very, very strict. And for 30, like, I would say it's different outside of New York City, largely because, or like any big city, because of cost. People wait a lot longer to have kids.
Right.
But if you're 30 and heterosexual and unpartnered and childless, you lose a lot of cultural value.
Right.
And we have weirdly pulled that over into our culture. I don't know when that happened exactly, but I agree with you. Like, life doesn't... I mean, I had a great time in my 20s. Don't get me wrong. I will always look back. I moved to New York City at 25, but I had baller experiences, like, even up to that point. I had an amazing time in my teens and in my 20s. But, like, I didn't even recognize that I had a drug problem or like a substance abuse issue until I was 32 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it was likely that my gay death could have been my actual death.
Right.
Right? Or I look at the fact that my husband didn't meet me until he was 47. He had all of these accumulated experiences, and we didn't meet until later in his life.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's so much better for him now, but... it's so much better now.
But I was thinking too, just about like, now listen, I obviously am only going to places where I feel comfortable, but and I don't frequent the bars like I used to. But I'm not lacking for places to go where I feel comfortable and amongst, hot, sexy gay men. And, I feel like Fire Island, for instance, is not necessarily a young person's playground. I feel like the age span there is very wide and not at all thin at the top. I mean, I feel like when I'm out at Fire Island, I'm surrounded by people my own age. I feel the same way in Provincetown. I feel the same way in Puerto Vallarta. I mean, granted, these are travel destinations, so they do cost more, and so you are going to get an older crowd that has accumulated more and can take those vacations. Yeah, I mean, I think. Listen, our community also is ever evolving, and we're all still in a strange way kind of new at this because I was just telling my third graders class yesterday about the current movement having been born in 1969, like 54 years ago, is not that long. And so, yes, maybe when this phrase was coined, it could have been that like all of these like beautiful 20-somethings felt like nobody's going to want me past 30. Now, what we can talk about is gay death on the apps, because I don't put my age on the apps. And for a long time, I lied about my age on the apps by a considerable amount, because like I said, I've always been told I look a lot younger than I am. And until my husband saw my profile, because we think we have each other blocked, but until he saw my profile and realized that I was purporting to be in my like late 30s when I was almost 50, and mocked me for it to no end, at which point I just stopped listing my age altogether. There is, you see so much on the apps, like, where people say like they're only interested in a certain range.
Which seems so arbitrary, but also, I mean, I do the app math too. Yeah. Like, if the age is in the 20s, I subtract 3. If the age is in the 40s or 50s, like, I add 5.
Right. At least.
Like, if you're on Grindr and you say that you're 19, you're in high school. I guarantee it. Like, no one ever in the history of the world has ever been exactly 19 years old.
But I do think there's something to talk about here in terms of like, okay, so like maybe gay death in the world, in the physical world, in the 3D, IRL world, is not the issue that it used to be. But it has evolved and lives on the apps. Like,
it lives online now. Yeah. Especially, and I like what you said. There's lots of, I feel so excited for our listener that asked this question, that you're in New York, that you have this boyfriend, that you're approaching 30. Like, babe, your journey has been your journey. It took time to get exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And you are where you are. And I think if you're spending time with people who are making you feel bad about how old you are, just consider them your new New York friends who, won't always be your besties as you meet the right people.
Right.
The people that you meet and the things that you're going to get involved with, gay or straight, because there are certain things that I do that are not queer specific, like bird watching. Although there's lots of lesbians there. You're going to meet tons of people, tons of different ages. I do think it's kind of less of a deal in New York City. But I don't disagree with you when you talk about ageism on the apps.
Yeah.
I've also made fun of, I think my husband is so sexy. And it is the connection of like age with stability is something that was so attractive to me when I was as young as I was when I met him.
Yeah.
Because my upbringing was so chaotic.
Right.
So when I met this person that clearly, had really defined interests and a good relationship with his family and seemed to have his shit and his finances, honestly, together. I mean, no one thinks I'm a gold digger. His closest friends are like, Judson, if you're a gold digger, you're a bad one. You picked the poor friend. So there's like a connection between finances and stability, but all of those things were there.
Yeah.
And I still, as we've aged together, I find him so, so attractive. And I understand why he might, I don't know if it's a lie. I don't know if it's a fib. I don't know if it's like a lie by omission. But the age thing on the apps is real.
Yes. Does he list his age?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Do you list yours?
I actually list mine because I feel like I'm in this sweet spot where my audience has never been more broad.
Right.
Like the older men who have always been attractive to me are still interested in me because I'm younger.
Right.
And young men are attracted to me because I am now older. Like if you're 25, 41 is like, you're old.
I know.
Not old, but older. Like it fits the mold of like, yeah, I'm into older.
Right. Do you, as somebody who does list their age, have you felt treated any differently, or do people approach you in a different way?
I had one. No. I had one person one time, and I really treat this as an anomaly. He was like, "Yeah, right, bro. 41. You're at least 50."
Ouch.
And it was one of those situations where it's like, dude, you're using this just to like criticize people.
So what I'm referring to is like Toby is honest about his age on the apps. And when he turned 40, he said all of a sudden he was getting like, "Hey, daddy," and like, people coming to him in that way just because the number changed. That like all of a sudden people were like seeing him as a quote unquote daddy.
Can confirm. There is a distinction between like the responses I got at 38 and the responses I got at 41.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to discuss too, like ageism in reverse. I am overjoyed to have people younger than me in my life because their experience as queer people on this earth has taught me a lot about my own identity.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I spent 3.5 years working as the co-lead of our employee resource group for queer people.
Okay.
At my job, I work for a tech company. This is a thing that organizations of a certain size have. And I remember a number of people calling me out because I used the word gay as too blanketing a term.
Right.
They're like, "You're gay, and that's cool. And some of us are gay, and that's cool. But not all of us are gay."
Right.
And when you refer to the group as gay, there's just this operating assumption that that's how we all identify.
Right.
And I really appreciate that as a learning opportunity because it moved me closer toward my own comfort with queer identity. Because if you think about the power that word had when we were coming to age, it's way more acceptable now and way more ample and way more inclusive. And while I do identify as a gay man, I also identify as a queer man,
right?
Which I didn't 5 years ago.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of wisdom on both sides. Like there's a lot that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
But I don't know if 30 is, there's no world where I think 30 is the end.
No, at all. At all. I think that's an archaic concept. And maybe, I don't know, maybe people in their 20s, like they just worry that, the fun is going to end. And listen, I cannot drink as much as I did in my 20s. I cannot stay up as late as I did in my 20s. I could be out most nights of the week and drink a ton and still like be a very productive member of society the next day. At 50, yes, that goes away. But that doesn't keep me from still having an amazing social life and nightlife and all of that. I'm just like, so maybe there is this concept amongst folks in their 20s that the fun's going to end. But to my mind, this has always been about like our fascination with beauty, and that like the beauty starts to fade. But I think that the definition of what is attractive in the gay world has really opened up since I was in my 20s.
It's still a little tight. Like I wouldn't say that we have beauty singularly defined, but how we've defined beauty is still fairly narrow. It's grown a little bit, but if I always refer to these like Instagram 10s, and it's like a very specific thing.
Right.
And then I see people out in the world who don't fit that at all. Neither you nor I do.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, gorgeous.
Yeah, yes.
Just like, what a beautiful boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it is something that we can do away with. Also, your idea of fun changes. Like
that's true too.
The fun doesn't necessarily end. That particular type of fun ends. Right? Like I don't drink at all.
Right.
I don't drink at all.
Yes.
And one of the things that I worried about as I started to get sober, like, is my life going to be boring? Is my life going to be fun? And I think my life is very fun.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I get to wake up the next day like fairly refreshed.
Right.
However, I did have fitful sleep last night and I almost canceled on you, which is what it's like at this age, right? I slept like shit and was like, how am I going to get through this day? Whereas at 22, I could have been out until 3, 4, 5 in the morning and at work by 8 with just a big coffee and fine.
Yeah. No, that's exactly my point. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I'd like to offer too, and we've spoken about this previously, is like ageism as it refers to daddiness.
Yeah.
I am a huge proponent of the fact that daddiness can be a little too narrowly defined. Like it's a look, it's a style, it's domness, it's topness. And I don't want that to exclude anyone who's younger.
Right.
17, 22, 25, 32.
Right.
To not harness the power of what it means to be a daddy.
Yeah.
What is true in all cases is number one, you're admitting that it's an act of service. And number two, you're directing the show. Those are the two things that are true, in my humble opinion.
Right.
I've had plenty of people disagree with me on this.
Right.
Of daddiness. So that means you can be a daddy at any age and you can be a daddy from any direction, top, bottom, side, or otherwise.
Yeah.
As long as you're able to identify that you are servicing someone else's needs, be it sexual pleasure or something else, like you can be office daddy, right?
Yeah.
If you're just like helping someone out with their work and directing the show, like you're in charge. I think that's the piece that makes it daddy.
Right. Well, every time you bring this up, I always want you to just clarify, because I think the concept of daddy, this kind of stereotypical concept, is that they are the one being served.
Correct.
But I think in your definition, it is the being in charge, and the providing direction is that is the service.
Providing the direction is the service. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. It has been so narrowly defined, like that a boy or a sub is there to serve, like the daddy is being served. I disagree. I think if we understand, our son or our boys or our subs' pleasure, and we tend to their pleasure from any angle and are directive with it, that's daddiness.
Right. And that is funny because, as I've said to you before, being a dad of an 8-year-old and 5-year-old is entirely a service job. And one of the greatest services I think a parent can give to their kids is providing that framework, that direction, that it makes them feel so much more confident and secure to know what the boundaries are, to what the expectations are, and all of those things. And so, yes, while it might be like me telling them to clean up before bedtime, and it may seem like their act of cleaning up is the service role, it is me providing the service by like shaping them and coaching them and directing them and letting them know what needs to be done.
I think that's so beautifully said. And the other piece of it too is, in being a daddy, by being of service and being directive, you're teaching people to be more explicit with their needs and desires. We need you to tell us how to be of service to you, and then we will direct the show. I can't make any assumptions about what pleases you, but as long as I have a baseline, I can roll with that, right? But it requires the boy, the bottom, the sub, whoever, to be a little more explicit with what they want. And then the daddiness comes in as directing that show and being of service to those needs. That is so much more ample than just like 45, 1.7 to 1 shoulder to waist ratio, hairy and tattooed, dom top.
Right.
All those things are daddy in my mind,
right?
If they're operating within this structure, but there's just so much more.
Yeah, and it can be any age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is how we bring any topic back to being about dads and daddies.
There is a through line here, folks. That's called a callback.
Well, thank you, Judson. This has been great. Let's take a break maybe and come back with our actual Go Ask Your Dad question for this week.
Wonderful.
We received this Go Ask Your Dad question as a DM on Instagram. We're at Dads and Daddies Pod. Please send us your questions. You can DM them to us. Again, you can email them to dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. You can send us a written question or a voice memo like you heard on last week's episode. We'd love to hear your questions and give you our thoughts. Our usual disclaimer, we are not mental health professionals. We are just two adult gay men with years of living life out of the closet, and these are just our thoughts. Before I read the question, do you want to introduce who this question comes from?
Oh, I would love to. So this question comes from a very dear friend of mine, Drew King. He has just launched a podcast with the very funny, always hilarious Alex Cumin called Into the Mud. We would love for you to check them out. I love their angle. So much of media, so much social media is always focused on the positive, right? We only present this like very shiny slice of who we are. This podcast is about what people are going through.
Yeah.
It is excellent. And Drew, I can't wait to have you as a guest.
Yep.
And Brian has your question that we're going to answer for you today.
Yeah. We're going to give it our best shot.
We'll try.
Drew's question is, being in an open marriage, what are your considerations for the single male counterparts you engage with who may be seeking more? I ask this question as a single gay man who loves and respects open arrangements, but seems to be a magnet for married open men who want the novelty of something new, fresh, and exciting. As a single person seeking companionship, I try hard to avoid married men, but they seem to keep finding me. Help.
Oof. First of all, Drew, I understand why married men find you because you're a fucking babe. Drew,
you are.
Drew is so sexy. He's so funny. He's so talented. Like, I get why any guy, like married or otherwise, would be knocking on his door. I've really enjoyed having this question on my proverbial desk for a week or so because it's given me some time to think about it. I want to talk first about how I interact with other married men because it has created like a unique thought here. So I enjoy hooking up with anyone as long as we can agree on a time, a place, and that whatever we do is consensual. And the irony here is I think with married men, I'm a little more willing to be romantic and sweet because I know that they have another man to go back to. So it doesn't feel like, I mean, I'm not trying to tell these dudes I love you, but like the cuddling, the compliments, I get a little nervous doing that with a single guy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I very specifically don't want to lead them on or confuse them. And I guess the irony here is like, because they don't necessarily have a partner, that might be the piece that they're craving the most.
Right.
So in a way, I'm like actively denying what they want as a form of protection, which then puts me in the position of being withholding.
I'm impressed that you're able to like switch that on and off. Like you go in knowing like, okay, this is a single person, so I'm going to behave this way. Like, I don't know that I could have that control. I feel like when I'm in bed with somebody, I am who I am.
I'm pretty aware of it, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've also started to speak with other married men about this, and they're like, yeah, I sometimes kind of like to pursue other married dudes because it avoids emotional attachments, which leads us to what considerations for single guys. It makes me wish that we had something like a Yelp for sex, or that I could say, well, Drew and whoever, like, ask the married guys you're fucking to introduce you to their single friends. But I don't think that's very practical advice, right? Are Carlos and Jonah going to be like, this is our friend Terrence, and we can attest to the fact that Drew's a great lay. You should go on a date. I don't think that's very practical.
Right. Listen, I think you have to protect yourself. And like, I always, as a married person who uses the apps to hook up, I of course find it frustrating when I see somebody say that they only want single people, that they don't want people in open relationships. You do see that in profiles, but I have to respect it for this very reason. You know, I am somebody who makes, like, every hookup for me is kind of a play date. You know, I mean, like I put myself, you know, there's imagination involved. And so I feel like naturally become romantic in these moments. Like for me personally, if you've seen my profile, you know that like kissing is like number one. Like if you're not going to make out with me and you're not good at it, then I don't want to hook up with you. Like it is like, for me, it's like people ask me what I'm looking for. I say I'm looking for a great top who's a great kisser and wants to make out, and, you know.
Kissing always adds an extra level for me. Like I do feel like it makes for a hotter experience. Yeah. Because you get more of the exchange. Yeah. Like there's more of a chemical connection, but I don't have it as a prerequisite.
Oh no,
you can invite me over ass up. Like that's fine.
No, for me there has to be kissing. And so anyway, the point being that like I respect this, you know, these folks who are just like, no married people, no people in relationships, no people in open relationships, because yeah, if you're going to then hook up and you're going to have this intense makeout session and do all this other intimate stuff, like, listen, I met my husband on Grindr, so you know, I know there's that hope and desire, and before I met my husband, I think every hookup I went into thinking like, is this the one? You know, because in those moments, you really let yourself believe. Like I go into these, like I'm saying, like these imaginative play dates, which is how I describe, you know, what my kids do. And what makes it hot for me is like letting it go there in my head, even if it's just for those, you know, 5 to 20 minutes that the hookup lasts. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess my advice is like, you might just need to protect yourself and be clear. As we've always said, well, maybe you haven't heard yet because it might be on some episodes we haven't released yet, but we talk a lot about being open, direct, and honest, and like you know, being clear about what you want and what your expectations are. And not to say that you want to put out there that like, hey, I'm hoping for more here. So, but I think to put out that like, I'm just not willing to hook up with people in relationships is fine. You got to, you know, in the end, you know, Judson talks a lot about a zero-sum game. Like when you're on the apps, these people you're interacting with, like you didn't know them a second before. If they ghost you, if they don't like what your profile says, it's no harm, no foul, right? And so I think there's no reason not to like put out exactly what you want. And yes, you might feel like, oh, but you know, there might be guys out there who are turned off by it. Well, then fine. Those are not the right guys to be hooking up with anyway.
Yeah, they're married, which is what you don't want. And right. I also believe in these I believe in the combination of scarcity of resources and psychic shifts. And by putting the energy of single only out into the world while also protecting your physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and sexual energy from being zapped by married guys. Yeah. I agree with Brian. Direct, open, honest, and very explicit. I have things in my profile that are very explicit. Yeah. No drugs and no DL. The reason I won't do DL, I'm happy to discuss on another podcast. But I think there will be a psychic shift, and you want to protect your energy. And if you feel like it's being wasted on married guys that ultimately, again, are married, yeah, maybe advertising single only is the move. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear how it works out. Drew, I'll text you.
Thank you so much for sending in the question. We really appreciate it. And really so excited to have received both questions that we talked about on this episode. Hearing from listeners, like there's nothing like it. Nothing makes us happier. So please, please, please reach out. Please also leave us reviews. We both would love to hear what you're thinking and feeling about the podcast. You know, this is journey that we are on, an adventure ever evolving. So, again, as a dad and a daddy, we are here to serve and want to make sure that this is what you all want to listen to. So let us know. Again, you can email us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. You can DM us on Instagram at dadsanddaddiespod. You can check out our website, dadsanddaddies.com. And we have a whole contact us page there. And tell your friends. We hope to just keep growing and growing. And the last thing we want to talk about is New York City Pride, because it's coming up on Sunday. If you're listening to this the week that we're putting this out, then it's coming up on Sunday. And so we come visit us. I don't have an exact location yet, but we'll be part of the Pride Fest.
The gays aren't organized? We don't have an exact location yet?
No, it's just...
Surprise.
No.
Somewhere east of Fifth Avenue.
But we should be on the main avenue and not on one of the side streets. I know that much. And if we are... it'll be on a corner of the main avenue, is what I'm told. And then, but we also, if you want to help at our booth, you want to talk about the volunteering opportunity?
Yeah. The volunteering is so fun, dude. If you're looking just for like a fun way to hang out with chill, sexy, friendly guys just for a portion of your day, we're taking volunteers for 3 hours. It's getting people invested in the pod, getting them on Instagram, having them spin the prize wheel, passing out t-shirts, having a spot that you can call your own in Pride as opposed to just being herded like cattle through Rainbow Land is a very, very cool experience.
Yeah.
We got snacks, we got drinks, we got water. We'll take care of your lunch. Hit us up. We would love to have you.
Yeah.
We've got 11 to 2, 1:30 to 4:30, and 4 to 7.
Awesome. This has been fabulous as always.
Really lovely. I hope you have an excellent weekend. And again, Brian, are you ready to hear this?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. How'd that make you feel? Pretty good,
Makes
right?
Makes me feel good, Judson. Makes me feel good. I'm proud of you too. I'm proud of us. All right. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.